Zeno Mercer joining us now, senior research analyst from Vetify, to continue discussing and breaking down NVIDIA's earnings. Zeno, thank you for being on with us this afternoon. As you take a look at these numbers, what is standing out to you the most? We have the beat on the top and the bottom, but we do have that slight miss. What's going to be the biggest driver here?
Yeah, I mean, clearly this has been a year of major awareness and appreciation of kind of this gigantic AI infrastructure push. It's game theory, it's sovereign, it's global. And NVIDIA has been kind of both a pioneer of this and a leader of this. And so, this late in the earnings season, there was obviously a lot of really solid hyperscaler and other announcements, Meta, Google, you name it, like kind of just nonstop demand and announcements of new data, even XAI back in Memphis, where I'm from. And so, obviously there's a lot of expectation of like how much pull through they get. So there's the future demand versus like the current deployment. And so ultimately, we're seeing, with these numbers, obviously still, clarity needed for China. But, and also, how much offsetting of that will be from areas like the Middle East and other areas around the world and the existing hyperscalers. And of course, what does this mean for the rest of the AI ecosystem? But again, NVIDIA is one of many players out there.
They certainly are. So we have a lot of things to address there. Let's first start with the China story, since this is a big one. On the call, they've already said they did not include the sales of H20 in any of the Q2 numbers or in any of their outlook here and in their guidance and forecasting. How much are they going to address the China business on the call, do you think?
I don't think they can avoid talking about China at this point, given the importance to the company. And also just, politically, everybody's going to have all, eyes and ears on it, especially whether it's from the impact of the export tax, so let's call it that, the end market. Again, I'm also interested in areas like their new Jetson Thor chip, right, where, focus on robotics. And so, again, those are earlier innings areas, but again, they just came out with their new model for that. Right now, not very meaningful production. So again, if you think back to NVIDIA back in October 2022, I was one of the few bulls left, talking about their opportunities ahead. So I think, we can miss the forest for the trees focusing on a single quarter. Obviously, I think everyone knows, you've looked at other companies reporting after hours today, like Pure Storage and Snowflake. Snowflake, no surprise, obviously, because we saw MongoDB report yesterday. So, kind of surprising it didn't move more in tandem today. But again, the AI story and this infrastructure growth is in full swing. Going back to what we should expect on the earnings call is, what share of capex dollars they're getting from this. And also, is it all hyperscalers? How's the sovereign playouts going? Any commentary there? And again, I'm also interested to see what he says beyond that too. Again, it's the biggest lever for them right now. But again, given where things are going, and let's call it embodied AI, edge AI, and let's call it even the inference economy, I think, people should start to be thinking a little bit more what comes beyond data center plays. Not saying that there isn't still like a multi-year runway ahead, but I think, this inference economy of actually deploying, AI in the real world, the connectivity, cybersecurity, all these components, NVIDIA really is a leading indicator there. But again, I think we should start looking at the opportunities beyond that. And I think this earnings, so far it's kind of flat down a little bit. We'll wait on the earnings call, but I think, regardless, it's a good time for people to start thinking beyond that.
And if they are thinking beyond that, Zeno, where might they look?
Yeah, I mean, look, you've got other semi players, right? Even the hyperscalers themselves are, building their own competitors. So we're looking at, let's say, for example, they just came out with that new Thor robotics platform chipset server. So they announced partners for that. Advantech, Infineon. Meta's partnered with MediaTek, which is the 5th largest fabless semiconductor in the world. AMD. Also, you don't have AI without Taiwan Semiconductor at this point, but you could have AI without NVIDIA. It would be a blow. But again, there are a lot of important companies down the stack. Companies like Foxconn, right? They used to be the blue chip provider that everyone just associated with Apple. Now they're working to build servers for Apple and Nvidia. They're seeing margin expansion. They're seeing new markets appear. So again, I think it's time to start exploring areas that haven't really seen the valuation uplift, but they're at kind of, let's call it the tipping point for seeing a lot of pull through. And this earnings season has been pretty much phenomenal for the rest of the AI ecosystem, including robotics, which is kind of the area we focus on a lot.
Well, and it's interesting you bring up robotics. I'm not sure if you heard my conversation with George Tillis when we were breaking down the earnings, but, we were taking a look at their automotive revenue, which, in terms of section is obviously not a huge driver for them. But like you just brought up, they have this new Jetson Thor chip, which will go into these humanoid robots. And how influential is that going to be? I know this boom of data centers is what we're talking about right now, but I feel like the side conversation that everybody's talking about is the rise of robots, and particularly these humanoid robots, even for a company like Nvidia, who obviously has the capability to do it, how much of a driver is that going to be? How influential could it be for companies like Nvidia and others?
Yeah. So again, it takes a village, and again, just because you have a chip, that's just one component. You have sensors, you have actuation. There's a lot of components to go into robots. Let's not even isolate it to humanoids. Let's call it all kind of automated real world form factors. So like just back of the envelope math, if you had a billion humanoids, that's a big number, but let's just call it a billion robots, and they all had this Thor on it. I think he's doing bulk pricing for like 3K. Let's be more realistic. That drops to 2.5, 2K. I mean, adding the other components, you're looking at a $5 trillion tech stack in terms of the underlying tech for that. And that's, going into drones, autonomous vehicles. And we really are about to see new platforms appear here. So if you have autonomous vehicles and autonomous drones, they can now do overnight logistics and do automated warehouses. So again, think more, what is the point of all of this AI investment? It's not just so we can chat in, a web browser. It's new interfaces like Meta's wearable wrist sensors that can, understand intent. And do augmented reality and eliminate the need for other peripherals like mice and touchscreens and keyboards. So we really are like there's a human tech interface, and then a tech stack that's built kind of by AI and robots for AI and robots, and that's really what we look at with at Robo Global. And we have, as an example, our Think THNQ strategy and our ROBO strategy, which was the world's first robotics index and ETF that was launched back in 2013. So this is, an area we've really been looking at for a long time, is the convergence of all these areas coming together and not really kind of following the hype, but like actually watching where adoption is coming from.
So as we follow that and we start to see who some of the winners have already emerged, but who some of these potential winners also might be, are we also starting to see who some of the potential losers might be in the AI, I don't want to call it the AI race, but in the development of AI in our world?
Yeah, I mean, I think people are still underappreciating how much AI impact is going to have, not just on how we do things in our daily lives and enterprise operations and even jobs, right? But you're looking at new technologies coming out that can automate what used to be gigantic technical moats. As an example, this is for anyone tuning in. Here's a little bonus. Look up Nano Banana. And that's a crazy thing, but that's a new model that's coming out from Google on their Gemini for image creation. And it can really do a lot of the things that used to be, secret sauce and worth hundreds of billions of dollars. And now you can do this on your phone. And so, Adobe is an example of a company that's in the kind of spotlight there as a potential high risk. That also, PDF, that's really not that innovative, but they still get a decent percentage of money there. Salesforce, right? People talk about AI agents and how much money you can make off agents and all of that, but really monetization isn't clear. I know people that can, in high school that are building AI agents that can operate on their phone, that can understand, a lot of things that contextually used to require like consultants and massive databases and big licenses. And now, this technology is being democratized. So companies like Salesforce, Adobe and Salesforce were in Think THNQ, our artificial intelligence index, when we launched it in 2018. We kicked them out in the last 12 months because we have a process where we score and analyze these companies based on their technical moats as one of the components. And we see a lot of risk coming to what have been a lot of kind of like enterprise SaaS players and what have been, from 2000, the internet up until now, kind of leaders and pioneers. And now we have a new guard coming in. Some of these are even private. And so, staying on top of this is hard. It's a full-time job. And I think it's an exciting time to look at, again, what's coming beyond. Like, what is all of this new AI and generative technologies and agents and even open source on-device edge compute? I know it's a lot of buzzwords, but these things are happening now. And, especially in robotics space too. And it's not just what's happening on an individual robot, it's the systems that are controlling it, right? So swarming and connectivity and all of these elements have to come together and orchestrate to operate at scale. And that's really, if you want to, have like a technical bet and a hedge of where things are heading, that's the area that we believe fundamentally are going to be some of the biggest players, the future Mag 7 of the economy, and we're starting to see that play out with a cyclical recovery in robotics as an example, and these new markets appearing.
Well, they're buzzwords for a reason, right? We say them so regularly because they have impact. Zeno, thanks for being with us to break down NVIDIA's earnings and also talk the future of AI. That's Zeno Mercer from Vetify.